Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 53 of the Town Social. No words, just action, I think was what we was promised. The Bam Bam sticks were out in force as Town took to the field, hoping to try and retain championship status, knowing that nothing but a victory against struggling, rubbish Birmingham City would be enough. We started off in probably the worst fashion possible, conceding such a soft goal to Mayoshi, only to briefly raise our hopes with a Reece Ely strike early in the second half. But as the second half progressed, the hope faded, and results elsewhere have ultimately meant that Town must somehow overcome a 15-goal deficit in order to retain championship status. It's not quite over yet, but the fat lady, I'm afraid, is about to sing. And being realists on this pod, we will treat it as if we are down because, well, we are, aren't we? Let's be honest. My name's Nick Barlow. Joining us tonight, we've brought the big guns out for this one. There's a lot to talk about. Ian Kilroy, Tristan Campbell-Gasquet, and Greg Mara. Gents, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We've got some comments already. Get your comments, get your questions in. We had quite a few already on Twitter, which we'll get to later. But guys, I mean, what can we say? I want to start by just asking you all, how are you feeling? You know, let's go on to the game in a sec, but just how are you feeling after this season? It's been a shit show, hasn't it? Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you optimistic for a reset? Just what are your emotions right now as we see it tonight? Silence says it all.
Don't rush in. Yeah, I don't really know. I think I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed, really. I think it's been coming out. Let's be honest. I think we're all really honest with ourselves. It's been coming a while. The performances have been pish for a fair old while. We've tried everything in terms of changing the management, brought in players, loaned out players, loaned in players, changed formations. You know, videos encouraging us to get down. You know, we've tried all sorts, but absolutely nothing really has had the desired effect. And I think it sums up for me really that you look at some of the teams that have been around us most of the season, Stoke and Sheffield Wednesday and people like that. You know, when it's really mattered, the players have probably got the same problems as our players have, but they've managed to make it count when it happens, and that's been it for me. I haven't seen a performance in the last 15 games that's made me think this looks like a team that even wants to survive, let alone being capable. So yeah, it's in some ways I'm glad it's over. I didn't want to go to Ipswich with any kind of forlorn hope that we might get something, because I think we're going to get absolutely pumped on Saturday. So I'm glad it's over. But we were talking about not even, you know, we couldn't even be successful without being shit. Well, we managed to get relegated without actually getting fucking relegated. I mean, it's just there's only Huddersfield Town, isn't there? So yeah, apathy, I think.
Nick, you must be happy though. You don't have to change your name at this point.
Oh, I'm buzzing, mate. Yeah. Oh, it's been great.
We'll kick off with a positive because there's not much else after it. But to me, this has been, look, before the season started, I predicted us to finish 23rd. I thought it was clear that Rotherham were the worst team in the division by a long way. Obviously, they did well coming up last year from League One, but doing all right last year, staying up and stuff. But the thing is, we didn't recruit as we expected to over the summer. And for me, this is 2 years worth of. We got to the playoff final, and then for whatever reason that we'll break down in this podcast, no doubt. We just delayed the squad position by position, and what we're left with now has had to fight relegation for 2 years. Every game's been a battle. Every game we felt like we've had to overperform. Again, to me, every time we went out, it was like we were a lower league team in the cup against somebody in a division above. Every single week we went out, home or away, it didn't really matter. When we won at Sunderland on that random Wednesday night, it was a massive feeling because again, it felt momentous because we don't win many games. And the problem is, over the course of 2 years, players deteriorate mentally, of which we've seen this weekend and against Swansea last week. But over time, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And now we find ourselves in this position, rightfully going down to League One, no doubt. And so there can't be any complaints. The fans, I think, took it pretty well on Saturday. I think we're all kind of going to talk about it in the same way, in that it was a matter of time. And the warning signs were there. It were clear. This isn't a shock relegation, is it? This isn't a relegation where it felt like we fought all year and we were going to be all right. It always felt Like we were very close to ending up in this position. It's just been a tough year, and everyone kind of needs a reset. But we'll just have to see how it goes. But for me, it's as expected. I'm not surprised whatsoever. Just disappointed. Maybe I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. Maybe that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. I think I'm probably a little bit like I was when we had Chris Powell. You know, there was just nothing, was there? You know, there wasn't really anything going on behind the scenes. There wasn't really anything going on kind of on the pitch. There wasn't anyone to kind of latch onto, there wasn't a boothie or that you thought you enjoy going to watch each week. There's just not really anything. So I think it's I'm a little bit detached from it to some extent, and probably going and playing cricket yesterday was a good choice.
You've only brought me here so I can slag everyone off anyway. I'll be honest, I could have easily just stayed in the pub yesterday. Apathy, Gaz said that's the word of this season. It's been dreadful, hasn't it? Like, I set myself a target at the start of the season to do every home game because, unlike Tristan, my body's buggered and I can't play cricket that well anymore. But I remember when I was on the training when we had that awful light show against Preston North End at home, and I dropped my bag off at work. and my mate texted me saying, "No, we're already conceded," and I could have gone to watch the game, and I went to the pub instead. That kind of sums it up. When people are turning up, they're not turning up to watch football. The football's dross. They're turning up out of habit. They're turning up to see their friends, family, social quarters. I haven't been to an away game since Hull because, having to watch Kyle Udling for 90 minutes up front on his own was bad enough. Squad's not good enough. The club's in a mess. It was going to happen. It was always going to catch us up. You can't do it on the cheap. You can be sustainable, but you have to speculate to accumulate. And I don't think the last couple of owners have understood that you have to invest in the right areas. And what we've invested in the last 2-3 years, Tyree Simpson, Kyle Hudling, all players, they're just not good enough for this league. Shit happens, and can't wait for Stockport County away next season.
Yeah, I'm just a bit indifferent, really. I'm just fed up. I'm fed up of watching dross. I'm fed up of being bored, watching us lose, watching us have 3 shots on target a game. Just zero entertainment, just getting outsung by away supporters all the time because we're just getting mullered. It's just like you said, Greg, you go out of habit, don't you? You go more just for the social side of it rather than the game itself. And I mean, we'll get on to it later about the season tickets and all that, but they're going to have to seriously look at it because it's just they're just fed up. I mean, a lot of the people I've seen on social media and some of the lads I talk to, they're just fed up. They're getting towards that apathetic stage where just no one can be asked anymore because we've heard all this. There's been so many promises of right, it's going to be different this season, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and pretty much every single season we've been in Championship, I think our average points was something like 58 points, and that's including the 2 promotion seasons. I think if you take those 2 away, we average like 51 points. In the other 8 seasons we've been in the Championship. I mean, there's not one fan who's going to be happy with that sort of turnover and return, is there? So I think over the seasons it's just kind of ground us down, and I think most of us were kind of expecting more of the same. And just with Kevin coming out saying he's going to invest, we hoped it was going to be different. But I just think the bloke's been ill-advised, and like you said, we've spent money in the wrong areas, and the chickens have come home to roost, and now I'm kind of like, well, yeah, fair enough. Just we deserve to get. I can't even argue it. I can't even say that it's an injustice to be relegated. I can't even get angry because we've fully deserved it. And that's
even if we'd have had a better team this year, the stuff that's gone on, it's been a circus these last 12 months. It has since August. It's an absolute joke. From starting with Neil Warnock, obviously one of the favourite managers ever. You can argue whether he should or shouldn't have stayed in the summer, again, which we will do shortly. But since then, so many things happened that were an absolute joke this season, and it's ended up this last weekend with Brighton writer talking about how the different divisions within the playing squad, how players leave early, like they've always done all week. There's leaks from the club because I think it's pretty well known now the starting lineups were kind of things are leaked all over the shop at the end of the season. The club, whatever is happening at the moment, seems to lack leadership to me anyway on the outside. It seems like whatever's going on isn't normal for a football club because I can't remember Town going through a 12 months before like we have this last 12 months. For whatever reason, don't know, we'll probably break that down again, but it's been an absolute joke this season. And even if we would have had a better squad and a better talent, it's still what's happened behind the scenes from, like you say, Greg, the floodlight light show was ridiculous. And then we've had all of a sudden this last week, Nick Kev talking about, we'll talk more about Town later in the week. Not doing so. Next thing, there's a prizes given out for people that turn up on Saturday as a fan appreciation day. It reminded me of not dodgeball. Is it? It's the basketball. I can't remember with the Super Mega Bowl with the Flint Tropics with Will Ferrell is a film. It's just an Americanization on top of the shit that we've been given every single week. It's an absolute joke what's gone on. And the thing that gets me as well is that it's not just like things have gone really well and then there's one thing that's kind of catastrophic, such as Warnock going. There was the second one, then we got Worthington and then trying to get Brighton right in, and that hasn't worked. And now he's suddenly, for the last couple of games of season, he's dropping players that haven't turned up or they didn't run back in training. We're accusing the players not running back now being a direct reason why Tom Lee's got injured in the game against Swan. Like, it's just there's so many things consecutively, non-stop that's happened. I can't believe we're actually having to see this as fans of a professional football club because it's not normal. This is not normal. And League One's where we're at because of what we've gone through this year.
What happened to the half-price beer anyway? Somebody said there was half-price beer on Saturday. It wasn't. Somebody I know had 31 quid for a round. You know, we saw the videos last week. You know, damn right, put 10 grand behind the bar. But if you promise us half-price beer, give us half-price beer. We've had to put up with that all season. It's the least we deserve. The Giants aren't going to drink it.
I always say, if Nagel's first year couldn't have gone any worse, could it? I mean, all he really needed somehow was just to find a consolidated year. I think every Town fan would have been happy with 12th. That's all he needed to do to give himself the breathing space and the time. Because if we'd have finished mid-table and it had been an average to boring season, which we haven't had in a long time, I think people would have they would have almost the light show and the prize draws and the fan zone and all of that stuff. I think we'd have probably taken it in the spirits intended, which the guys are genuinely trying to find ways to improve the club, improve the match day experience, and improve the revenues. But when it's so bad on the field, everything else becomes almost an irrelevance, doesn't it? And everything he does then is derided. And obviously his tweet about Kieran Phillips scoring 374 people replied instantly, "What? We've been fucking relegated. Why aren't you talking about that?" Yeah, if he'd have tweeted straight after the game, they'd have all gone, "What are you tweeting straight away for? Don't you think you ought to have a bit of a think about it first?" So the bloke's damned if he does or if he doesn't. And I guess we're going to get onto it in a bit. I'm still trying to work out for myself how involved and hands-on this bloke is. Because if he was hands-on and in control of this thing, we wouldn't be getting relegated. Or it doesn't feel like it.
Let's take it back to the beginning, lads. Right? Should we have kept Warnock? That's the first question. Should we have kept him on after that great escape? I can kind of, in my head, I can see why they'd have had to have offered him it because of the job he did, and the fact that really they'd only just come in, they're trying to work things out. I got it. But should we have done that, or should we have drawn a line under it and said, right, you've done an amazing job, mate, but now we've got to look forward. We get a new guy in with a pretty much full pre-season, get their own players in and start afresh. Should we have done that, or was it right to keep him on at the beginning?
I agree with you, Nick. I can see why they did it. You know, they had to make quite quick decisions. I think we alluded to it last time. They were in quite late, and I think Cartwright was in quite late, so they had to kind of make decisions probably quite quickly and on the fly. But to be honest with you, and I think said it at the time, Warnock wasn't, he'd done such an incredible job, but he just wasn't the man for the job. and I think people alluded at the time, you know, he's a bit more of a coming in and saving you rather than kind of building a club up from the bottom kind of thing. And I think, to be honest with you, it probably started at that point, all of this. You know, we didn't recruit well. In fact, we recruited pretty horrendously. And as Ian kind of alluded to, you know, it has been coming for 2 years, and you'd have thought after last season we'd have learned our lesson where we really didn't make great decisions in the summer, and we just seemed to follow suit again.
I wouldn't have had him. I wanted a new guy straight away. I feel like we kind of went about it again in American NFL, NBA way, where every year is so different because you've got a massive turnover of squad members every single year. So you can kind of have these short-term stop gaps where you're like, right, we'll just get him in, get to the end of the season, then we've got a draft. We'll be totally different next year. We can kind of build something then. I reckon, or I believe Nagel bought the club on the 23rd of June or something like that. It was pretty close, wasn't it, to the summer transfer window? And now, with such a massive overhaul, we're not going to have the targets in place for Nagel and his guys at that point. So I understood that that summer was always going to be pretty tight when it came to bringing in signings. Because really, you've got quite a long period of time from looking at a player, fancying him, going out, checking him a few times, doing your due diligence, agreeing the contract, all this kind of... It takes a while. It takes a while to do it. At that point, we also... Warnock doesn't really have a particular style, does he? He doesn't sign players anymore. I don't know when the last time he kind of controlled the club and did... Was it Middlesbrough he did all right at last time as a permanent gig? He's not done it for quite a while. Now he's an older lad, so things change. But I didn't expect too much. But the problem we have is, like I say, we got to the playoff final and then the squad was smashed up, wasn't it? Lewis O'Brien left, Pippa left. There were a few other guys that moved on, loans and whatnot, that weren't really replaced with like-for-like quality. Dino wanted to offload the club. I think it's pretty clear that Premier League did parachute payments finish that year as well. So obviously we had a reduction in playing budget. So the type of players we could afford changed as well. And now that kind of nearly got us relegated in the first year until Warnock came in. And still to this day, I know it's only a year later, I think his job keeping us up in the Championship last year was a miracle. And I think it was actually nearly as big as David Wagner taking us to the Premier League, considering mental aptitude of the players when he came in, the players that we had, and how many games we had to win consecutively to stay up. And then we didn't just stay up by a point. We stayed up in, 19th did we finish under Warnock last year? Is that what it was? We kind of won a few games at the end, a bit like Sheffield Wednesday now. They're probably going to do something similar at the end under Danny Rowe. It was fantastic. But for me, that was the time to get rid of Warnock and bring somebody new in and start afresh. Because Warnock's track record recently hasn't been good. I know we've got quite probably a few people listening that are quite nostalgic to Warnock and love him and think he's God's greatest gift, a bit similar to like people feel about Johnny Ogg when he's playing centre midfield for us. But it's just, to me, it was the right time then to do it, especially if the man's Darren Moore, who was available at that point. But that's, again, something we'll get to in a second. But we didn't. We went with Neil Warnock for whatever reason. I think we knew we weren't going to bring so many players in. He got a tune out of the players at the end of the season. And I think Kevin did speak about this a couple of games into the season when people were talking about how shit the squad was and that we were in trouble. I think Nagel started... Was it at that point he tweeted, said, leave it to the experts. And like, we know what we're doing. We'll fight. We're okay. We've got players that performed really well in the last season. We're going to be okay. We all knew we weren't. A lot of town fans that have spent all their life watching week in, week out. We brief football. We watch Sky Sports News all day. I've watched 2 Premier League games today, 3 Championship games yesterday. You watch Friday night. And then there were games all last. We watch football all the time. We're not your standard sports fan, I think, in a different country. I think people often are misguided when it comes to the addiction English people have over the English Football League or British people. We're over everything. And we knew this squad was in trouble for many different reasons, but it was kind of brushed under the rug a little bit because Neil Warnock's here. He got a tune out of him last year. But again, it's proven not to be the right thing, and it's failed, and it's fallen flat on its face. But to me, get rid of him in the summer last year, bring someone new in at that point, especially if it's Darren Moore. We know how it's worked out, but at that point, if they bring him in, I'd be more accepting of it. Instead, what happened and how Warnock was removed effectively early, even by his acknowledgement, because I think he thought he'd be here until January at the least. But there's not many times in football history, I guess, where you can say a manager has known he's only here for a short-term period and has done very well and then been replaced. I don't think I've ever heard of it before. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't pinpoint somebody that's done it, or not at the top of my head anyway. Other than maybe, did Chelsea win Champions League under Di Matteo? I think when he did it only a few months and then was replaced. But anyway, normally short-term things don't really work. To me, it was the right time then to remove him and bring somebody else in then and start afresh.
They brought him back on the strength of those last 12, 15 games, didn't they? Kevin obviously completed the deal on the club late. Excuse me. There was, whether you believe it was FFP that meant he couldn't splash the cash, or whether he thought, well, actually, Warnock's telling he'll have sat Neil down. Neil would have asked for a boatload of cash, and he would have said, so if I give you that cash, you're going to keep us in the league. Oh, absolutely, I can definitely do that. You just imagine the conversation. Great, so we don't need to sign a load of players. No, we don't need a load of players. That squad's good enough. And just imagine the conversations, and I think it pretty quickly unravelled. Really, I think we probably, even if we were in the market to sign players, how many really decent level championship footballers are going to go, yeah, I'll come and play for you, bearing in mind, sign a 3-year deal, bearing in mind, I know that 100% you're not going to be here till the end of the contract. How are you going to play it? Well, I don't really know. So I do think it was honestly, I was delighted when he re-signed, because I thought that he would do us till Christmas. They find the right man, and then we'll be on a pathway and finishing 12th and all the things we've just talked about. But it turned into an unmitigated disaster. And once the pressure was on, Warnock played his old mind games, didn't he? Talked about, well, I wasn't allowed to bring players in and all of that. And Kev didn't take too kindly to it. So, the only reason he was binned off is because he upset Kev. It's nothing to do with Darren Moore being available, because as Ian said, Darren Moore was available in July. So if we wanted him, we would have got him then, surely.
But there's two aspects then, which is the financial one. So the FFP stuff, how many players we could have signed. But on the flip side, there's also Kevin and his Twitter account. And he's not endeared himself, as Ian said. Somebody like Pozzo, who's, helped found what is now the Cowshed Loyal, he's having a go at him on Twitter about, quite rightfully, fans knew the wrath was coming. The Grim Reaper was going to take us down to League One. But also on that side, when he starts having to go at the squad, and that's why Warnock bit back, because he'd gone on Twitter after we lost, was it 4-0 to Norwich?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
He's basically thrown the team under the bus, and for ego purposes, and I think Neil Warnock said himself, he shouldn't have said what he said, but ultimately egos got rid of Neil and Ronnie. And I still think if we'd have kept them till probably February, March, they'd have kept us up. They probably would have done a hell of a lot better than Darren Moore did.
Do you not think, though, Greg, do you not think it was an untenable position Warnock put himself in by saying that, though? Because he held chicken back in the end of a press conference, didn't he? After Kevin tweeted, Warnock took a shot back, I believe, when he's saying it's not good enough. And then he was talking about his players, because he said Ruffles counted as a new signing and so did Ward. Do you remember they re-signed him and there was something to do where he was confused on the amount of players he could bring in and kind of said that. So it kind of felt to me at that point that Warnock really made his own position there quite untenable. You can say that it's ego from Kevin that made him make the move at that point.
It's both of them. It's both of them. And you don't do that. But then it just felt after that position that you've got rid of somebody who's a proven manager and a man manager who manages to get a tune out of Josh Koroma, who's done absolutely fuck all season. Again, a goal now and again, but he blazed over against Swansea to put us 1-0 up last week from 6 yards. He got a tune out of those players, and he probably would have got a tune out of them again. Ultimately, the structure of the club's not right, and I don't know whether that's the kind of the overlap from our good friend who liked to pretend that it was Squash Club back in 1987 or whenever it was. That Phil Hodgson era into this era, and Dean having to keep us propped up. I think there's a little bit of a financial aspect to that, and that drawn out process for a foreign owner has probably played its part. But the structure of the club's not there. We don't have a good structure at the football club, and we didn't at the start of the season. We definitely didn't in January, and all that's played its part. Would I have kept Warnock? No, I'd have found someone else. I think Gaz said it. You're not going to get people on 2-3 year contracts. You're then basically patching up a squad. But on the flip side, when you back him, you got to back him for the season, or at least until he's got you safe, not until November, and then bringing in an absolute clown who's got 2 clubs relegated this season.
I think the plan was Christmas, wasn't it? I think keep him till Christmas, give yourself time to look for the right manager. I think, we didn't start great under Warnock. We didn't have loads of points, but you're not telling me you wouldn't have got more points than Darren Moore up until Christmas. We could have been sat on another 5 or 6 points quite easily and be safe now. And if you bring Neil Warnock in, you let Neil Warnock do Neil Warnock things. And I've seen a comment here unfortunate Terry bring it up about the pre-season. And yeah, we played some teams of questionable quality in there. I think part of it was, I get the making the players humble, seeing where it's all come from and giving something back to community and all this. I get that, and they will have gained a bit of fitness from it. But really, that pre-season wasn't as good as it should have been, both in terms of the teams that we played, the calibre of the opposition, and also in terms of the players coming in and the players we let go. I think it was pretty much of a disaster of a window. Now, was some of that down to Warnock, that some players wouldn't come in because Warnock was here? Possibly. But if you're going to stick with Warnock, that transfer window's gone. You stick with him until December because, as you say, Greg, Neil Warnock's very, very good at getting the most out of what he's got, and those players were playing for him. He'd already got the players on side. He'd already got the fans on side. It was the easy option. Just keep him until Christmas, stabilise, get the points on the board, and then get another manager in. And if it don't work out, at least you've got a reasonable cushion there to give yourself time to sort it out. I think the timing of it, you could see. I think they gave an interview after the Coventry game, after Darren Moore's first game, and I think it was Mikel Hellick, and he said we're all absolutely gutted in that dressing room when they said Neil was going, and that can't be underestimated. And I thought at the time, when you've got players coming out and saying they're devastated, and it's really, you could tell that it had hit quite a lot of players hard, the timing of it, and bringing them round. The bloke had to come in, Darren Moore, and as bad as he was, I did have a bit of sympathy because he was going into a bit of the poison chalice there. He had to get the players on side immediately, get his ideas across and get them playing. And really, it's a position that we shouldn't really have put ourselves. We didn't need to put ourselves in that position. We should have waited. And that, I think, is one of the main areas that we've failed this season, because I think if we would have kept Neil Warnock on till Christmas, we would have had enough points to have stayed up at least.
But that's not normal, Nick, though. Even saying that, it's just not normal, is it? To have a full-time manager in until Christmas and going into a season having that. And for players, they will have known that's a weird thing as well. It's no surprise we're all of a sudden, right, at the end of the season now, Brian Wright has come in and the players are fucked. They're not doing what they're told. There's no competition for places, so they can do what they want. And they know they're not going to lose a spot because, well, who else is going to play? Who else is going to create chances if Sorba Thomas misbehaves or Bergsorg did? I know Ward and Healy here now, but for a lot of the season, they weren't there. From the outset, they will have known. Well, look at them. End of last year, they were playing for Warnock. That was undoubtable, right? They were playing for Warnock. They were overperforming and getting more points for it. I said he shouldn't have stayed. He should have gone, but he stayed. And then they got rid of him early doors. And the players will have been aware, very much so, of what had happened. They'll have known exactly what's happened. It's no surprise then you question it in May, end of April, May, that your players aren't doing what normal players do. When behind the scenes, that's what's been going on. It's just no surprise. And that's poor leadership. Whether it's Cartwright, whether it's Edwards, whether it's Kevin Nagle, whatever it is, the way the Warnock situation was handled was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for me. I thought it was all. I thought seeing our club do that kind of approach to getting rid of a manager based on something that was said in a press conference, I found it tough to take. And if I were in that dressing room, it undermines things, and it's very little, and it works a bit like a disease, and it's only like this big to start off with. But if something else happens, like, oh yeah, Andy did that, and then something else happens, oh yeah, Andy did that as well. And this all adds up until what we actually got at the end of the season. And it's no surprise to me that's the way it went, based on that being the main part that started it off.
Yeah, and then we bring in Darren Moore from a position of strength, I think was what they said, which to me was madness, because although we were in the relegation zone at the time, we weren't exactly ripping trees up, and the transfer business over the summer left us with an even worse squad, in my opinion, than last season, which was pretty horrendous. So, to me, we weren't doing it from a position of strength. The bloke comes in, and at the time, a lot of people slated it. I were willing to give him benefit of the doubt, because looking at his record at other clubs and his winning percentage, it wasn't actually that bad. And he did eventually take Wednesday up, despite them being 4-0 down. But I mean, guys, as it went on, you listen to his press conferences, and it just didn't. Personality-wise, it just didn't click, did it, with the fans from the off? Town fans respond to certain personalities, and you want the manager fired up. You want them to, to get in there and, right, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're all together. And they just, you listen to the press conferences, and if you want it to drop asleep, you play it like, do you know, like whale music, or where you struggle to sleep on a night, and you put that on in the background just to sort of. You could easily do that with his press conferences because he didn't say anything. It was just monotone waffle. And some of these teams towards the beginning, I'm still getting therapy for that Birmingham away team sheet and performance. It was absolutely horrendous. And he just kept he was almost like a pre-season to begin with, where he just kept tinkering with just different tactics, experimenting with players in weird positions and throwing points away, and draw after draw after draw after draw. And by the end, people was screaming for him to be gone. But we approached the transfer window. We had 3 winnable games. I think there was Plymouth in there, QPR, and I forget who the other one was. And to my mind, he should have been gone well before those games. Those were 3 winnable games. He should have been out the door. But no, we stuck with him into the new transfer window. And by the time we got rid of him, new manager coming in, not able to bring his own players in. We dropped points in all those games. And it was looking pretty dire. You know, I applaud Kevin Nagel sticking with someone and giving him a chance. But my God, there were no signs that it was going to work, really. From start to finish, no signs whatsoever. There was no trajectory of improvement. There was no positive signs of cohesion, gelling on the pitch, ideas. If you ask me what was our identity, what we're trying to do, I've no idea. Absolutely no idea. It was just awful. And
it was all about, Nick. It was all about just defensive, wasn't it? It was just about not conceding goals. That was Darren Moore football. Just don't concede, no matter what. Don't worry about attacking. Let's just try and not concede. And to be fair, I thought defence under Darren Moore were actually pretty solid. The problem was it was at the expense of everything else. But you're right, Nick. His press conference, how Darren Moore didn't Eric Cartwright or Edward speak about Darren Moore in his interview and how good he was in his job interview? I struggle to believe that, honestly, because every press conference he ever gave was just And now that's pretty pedantic of me to pick that up because a lot of people talk like that. It doesn't mean he's going to be a bad football manager. But the problem is, again, he's following Neil Warnock, the players' coach, the coach everybody looked after, the player, the coach everybody wanted to play for. And like Danny Ward, he called him up, said, "Oh, Danny, you ready for Saturday?" Yeah, I'm boss. No worries, boss. That kind of relationship he had with his players, and you could see them wanting to play for him. Darren Moore, to me, came in. He's a very different style of manager, which will have clashed with what the players wanted under Neil Warnock. But the draws were just draws. But what really got me about all his tenure wasn't so much the draws. It was boring football. And like you say, poison chalice. I don't think anyone really could have come in after Warnock and succeeded in the position that Darren Moore did. A bit similar, to be honest, like Mark Fotheringham last year. I thought he had a similar kind of chalice, and he was never going to succeed. He just... the players weren't good enough, and then he kind of lost his rag, and it just wasn't the right fit for us as fans. And it does go a long way, Nick, you're right. But Darren Moore, the thing that got me about is Nagel kept saying, he's our man, he's the guy. And if you remember, what happened was Kevin Nagel flew over to England, and I can't remember which game it was. If one of you could help me out on this one, it'd be good. But Nagel was sat in the stands at home, and I can't remember who it was, but we were so vitriolic against it. All of a sudden, the tone changed, and it suddenly turned into this, "Oh, yeah, he's the right man for now." We did a Radio Lee's interview, and it was a little bit different. Oggy started asking quite barbed questions, if you remember, about what were going to happen. And everything kind of changed a little bit. But what really got me after all that, and another reason why I still think it's just a circus this last year, was, do you remember saying we drew at home, who were it against before the QPR away game? And Kevin Nagel tweeted saying, Blackburn, okay, he goes, "Well, we expected to win, we didn't, but we have to win this weekend, or we'll have to do something about it." He said something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, but there was the inference that we had to win at QPR, otherwise questions would be asked. It was something like that. I can't remember verbatim what it was, but it was such a change to the tune that was going on beforehand. Again, you've got your owner there publicly talking about how we need to win on Sunday, otherwise the position of the manager is going to be questioned. It's just weird. It's not English football. It's not the way it's done here. And it was just another string to the bow to how successful or the failure of the season is going to be from that point onwards. Because again, the players will have known that. They've seen that it's not normal. We weren't run the normal way a football club's run in season, and it just all ended up to a massive disaster. I felt for Darren Moore. I didn't like his approach. I didn't find him very charismatic when he was speaking, but he seemed like a very nice bloke. And I don't think anyone that could have come in at that point would have succeeded. Just like Brighton Wright is coming afterwards with a CV much greater than any other manager we've ever had. But he struggled as well with this lot. And I think that's important to remember now. When we retrospectively go back and look at Darren Moore and his performance as town coach, you've got to consider how Brighton Wright has gone after this, because he's also failed with the same groups. And if you're actually looking at points per game, I reckon Brighton Wright has done worse than Darren Moore might have done over his tenure. It'll be pretty close anyway, which is quite surprising. But I think it's important now we go back and look at that.
He had a lot of injuries, when, in fairness to Darren Moore, he had to cope with, at one point, we had sort of 11 or 12 players out as well, didn't we? So the guy was also trying to cope with injuries. Yeah, I mean, I think I said the week that I think that was our mistake, really. I think if we'd have changed him before January, we'd have got, even if we gave it to Worthington during January, those first 3 games in January, Plymouth, Blackburn, QPR, all 1-1 draws, picked up 3 points out of 9. They were, and then we played Wednesday at home and won 4-0. So, those were eminently winnable games. If we'd have picked up another, 4, 5, 6 points out of them games, which we probably should have done. Really, let's be honest, Plymouth, Blackburn, and QPR weren't much cop when we played them either. We'd be safe. So, I genuinely think that was the turning point, and that was the point where I thought, yeah, Cartwright and Edwards, they're backing themselves now beyond it, because they picked Darren Moore. Nagel didn't pick Darren Moore; they picked him, and he's their man, and that's why I think they felt the pressure. So, that's why I'm hoping this time round they've picked Brighton Writer, and also they've managed the shambles of the signings, that if anybody's going to be feeling the pain, apart from the poor bastards in the ticket office who might find themselves out of work, I'm hoping them two might join the queue.
From my perspective, I think just dropping back to Warnock, we kind of said it was from a position of strength, and he'd taken something like 9 points from 7 games. And this was a bloke that, as we've alluded to, he got a tune out of players like Karoma and others in the team. And to me, in hindsight, it just looked like both, and I think, Ian, you kind of alluded to this a bit. There were no trust from either side. The players didn't trust him, and he didn't trust the players. And as Nick alluded to, that Birmingham game, it just stunk of I'm just going to throw a load of defensive players in there and try and get a kind of result out of them, sort of thing. And I think that just he just got stuck in that. He got stuck in that rut of trying to grind games out, and I think that I had a look earlier on. I don't think we've conceded as many goals as this in the last 10 years, bar the Premier League season, and we've still got 1 game left, and I think we're only 1 goal different to that season. So it shows you really kind of the mess we're in defensively, and I think, to be honest with you, as we've alluded to, we stuck with him too long. The game at Blackburn, just it was crying out for a change to be made. The game was there to be taken. It was there to be won. Blackburn were absolutely on the knees, and in contrast, then we eventually bring Brighton Viter in, and he's gone and done what he's done, and Eustace has come into Blackburn and just completely, there and thereabouts turn them around, and we just seem year on year. I think someone had put a stat up on Twitter, including caretaker managers since the playoff final. We've had 8 different managers. Just as Greg alluded to, it just stinks. The club has there's no structure there. There's no ground in there. There's no kind of foundations there. We seem to be kind of floating along, and unfortunately, it's meant that we've gone down. We did say, though, and I did say, last time we were on the pod, I really do think that now is an opportunity for them, and I think they've really got to grab it by the nuts and go for it. It's got to be a little bit akin to the season when You know, the 6 months after Wagner started and he started bringing in people early doors, I think we've really got to go and identify these players, go and get them ahead of division rivals, and really start trying to make to make waves a little bit. But yeah, in hindsight, we just seem to have made poor decision after poor decision, and that's where we've ended up.
What about that January transfer window, guys? Because I've seen a few times. I know Kevin Nagle said that Cartwright had overachieved. I think he used the words overachieved. Fuck me, I don't know what underachieving is then, if that's overachieving. But he said overachieved. I think Brighton Wrighty in his post-match come out and praised him as well. He's taken a lot of flack. To me, we needed a striker. It was clear that we just weren't scoring the goals, and we needed a striker in there. We signed 2 strikers. One of them doesn't look like he's ready to play big boys football, and the other one's been injured more often than not. Although he has, the bloke really has contributed 3 decent goals, so I think there is a player there. Matos started off quite well. I thought he looked promising against Man City, but he's faded. He's not really gone the distance for me. He's been anonymous in quite a few games, and Radinho Bolcaro, I don't even know if he's real. I've seen him. I think he's been here. He's been injured that long. I don't even know if he's some sort of dream or something that I had that we signed him. I don't know. So to me, again, it were another disaster. Now, whether really that's Cartwright's fault, whether we've just been unlucky with injuries, I don't know. But I'm interested for your guys' take on it, because to me, again, we failed there. We needed to strengthen, and we didn't really strengthen, did we?
What do you mean? Best January transfer window for ages, wasn't it? Summit. Great January transfer window people were talking about after it was done. Whereas we all spoke about it in regards to, we signed a lot of unproven guys that have played abroad and they've got no idea how they're going to transfer the qualities to the English league. Radulovic, the clips on YouTube of him are some of the greatest clips I've ever seen of any player coming in anywhere to be given a number 9 shirt. He was playing indoor at the Zone against players down there. It were against quality of opposition that's just not quite at it. It's just, I don't know. I expected more from the guys who bought in. Bolka looks like he can play football a little bit. It looks good. But again, your learning curve is going to be pretty steep when you come from a Dutch second division. It looks like he can play, but he's not quite at the level yet. He got a manhandled at set pieces straight away when he came in, and then he played. He missed when he was injured. Then he played, and then he missed another couple because he was injured. It's just not up to the standard. But that is the pattern of the entire season, isn't it? Bringing people in, bringing players in that aren't ready to go. Preseason was weak. We've got a manager for a short-term deal. We've got players coming in January that haven't played in this league before. Or Healy hasn't. To be fair, he looks to me like a really good signing. And looking at going forward and into next year in League One, he's your guy and make your number 9 and try and build around him because he can score goals. Absolutely. The reason why we've got him, though, is because he's not been durable enough over the last couple of seasons. And he obviously didn't work out at Watford. His goal per minute ratio we spoke about before, I think he's won every 93 minutes or something up until this weekend. I'm not entirely sure what it is now. And over his career, he's won in every 113 minutes, I think it was. That does include a year in Wales. Is it Connors Key played? I can't remember. But anyway, he looks like a proper player. Yeah, he does. But the problem is everybody else is signing players in January as well. So what the way we look at it is, we've gone out, we spent a bit of money here, but everybody else improved as well. And we had a lot further to go to improve to a level that would have been competitive enough to keep us in this division, and we just didn't do it. I still think we did more business in January than I expected, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't even close to being enough, was it, in the end? We've actually deteriorated since January to where we are now from where we were then. We're actually worse compared to everybody else. So you can't sit here and say January was a success. Maybe long-term, players will probably increase and can get better and develop, and maybe the signings are good. But you can't say anything other than it was a failure, January, considering we're relegated now, all bar 15-goal swing, before the last game of the season. It was a failure. And if you're going to say that that's Kevin's first transfer window, as I think Carmichael Dave spoke about, this was his first window, look what he's done. We've done to work, as I like to say. It was a failure because it's not been enough to save us. And the squad going into next year, looking at what we have today, which we will talk about in a little bit, isn't ready for that either. I think they tried hard by the look of it. But unfortunately, like Greg said, if you don't spend the money, if you don't spend comparatively to what everybody else is doing in the division, you have to overachieve that much on signings, which is down to Cartwright and his scouting team. You have to find extra ways of taking advantage and benefiting, and we just didn't have it in us this year.
Premier League loans is the obvious one. We missed it at the start of the season. Alex Matos I think, is one of the worst loans we've had from a Premier League side for quite a while, maybe since Lucas Jutkovic. That was a long time ago. He can't trap a ball. Pretty bad. I think the key area we've probably been lacking, and yes, injuries do play a part, creative midfielder to play alongside Hogg or Kasumu. Just haven't had that. Probably since Aaron Moy or Philip Billing when they were about. Lewis O'Brien was a box-to-box midfielder, so we could get the ball up there, but we haven't gone out and signed anyone. We've relied on Scott High, Josh Osterfield, Dominic Iapenda. They may come good. I doubt many of them will, but to rely on such a key area and not on youngsters when you're without Hogg and Kasumu. Hogg and Kasumu weren't creative either. It was pretty poor, and I think the thing that sums up all I'll include Ben Wiles in this is at the start of the season when we signed him for a significant transfer fee, which we all know was only six figures, and we only did it because Connor Cody got flogged to Leicester, and we got a nice little bit of a signing on bonus or whatever. You know, it was already they were already sowing that seed in that, we've made a big signing when we haven't. If you are successful, if you look at all the clubs who've been successful from League One, Championship, top end League One, Championship, and even to bottom end of the Premier League nowadays, they all do something right, which is recruitment. And we used to do that quite well, and we haven't for a very long time. We signed players for 500 million, sell them on for 2-3 million. We haven't done it, and we've been relying on free transfers, League One cloggers to keep us going. No disrespect to the League One cloggers, but ultimately we need an owner who's going to put a little bit of cash in, speculate to accumulate, as I said earlier, but also somebody who's got the right contacts. Mark Cartwright, fans aren't stupid. Wednesday fans said Moore was negative. Stoke fans said that Mark Cartwright's not very good at his job. I kind of tend to believe fans, because fans usually aren't wrong. I don't think we've got this structure in place to actually be successful. And I think a lot of fans are going to have a bit of a wake-up call next season when we are at the top of the end of the division straight away, because the players just aren't there.
It said it all for me, really, that our best January signing was a bloke we already owned. I mean, that sums the transfer window in January up, doesn't it? I'm with you, by the way, Killer. I think I could see something in Healy. His movement for the goal on Saturday was excellent. He made a run for the defender, and then stopped and just moved back. Just slowed his run into 5 yard of space, one touch, and tidily finished it. But then again, saying that, if you want to talk about League One quality, Tyree Simpson's played 40 times in League One this season, so that's what that's the kind of players we're going to be up against. But I'm with you, Greg. I worry. I think I said this last week or the week before, but the League One is a graveyard for clubs like Huddersfield Town, who are in turmoil, who are already on the slide, who've been struggling to arrest that slide for a period of time. I guess we're going to talk about players in a bit, but the vast majority of these shysters are still in contract. We've got very few people out of contract at the end of the summer. Very few. And I worry that, the wages we pay these people, we've got very little value. Trying to get some of the ones you out of the door will be the ones you can't get out of the door. And then the ones that you want to keep will be the ones that people want to buy. So we've got to have a plan. And I think, I don't know if it was you that said it, we've got to get on with this, because I think Rotherham have already done it. So they brought the man in. They've already got a plan of who they're going to recruit. They'll be there. Wrexham are going to absolutely splash the cash. They're going to go bonkers. They're going to be paying Premier League wages in League Two. So you've got two teams who are almost nailed on to finish in the top 3 or 4. So Brian Wright's still dicking about deciding whether he does or doesn't want to go. We really need to be pushing the button and getting on with it, don't we?
Hey, Greg, I just want to quickly point out though on Matos, Greg, you're right. Is this the first year we've not loaned an attacking midfielder at all? Because going back, we've not had Tino Andrew in. I know he was injured. Izzy Brown, Casey Palmer, Carol Eiting, Emile Smith-Rowe. We've always kind of gone out and brought that Premier League creator in, because obviously to go and buy a creator, even if you're buying a League One creator, they cost a couple of million. And now we're not a club that has spent that cash recently. So you've had to rely on the Premier League kind of guys coming in. And Matos were never going to be that, were he? It was known as, I think when he came in straight away, they were talking about him being a kind of a defensive styled centre midfielder. So I actually think this year shows a distinct change in the philosophies of bringing an attacking midfielder. Because other than Ben Wiles, who I actually do like, and I've spoken about here quite a lot, but he's not of the quality of like your young lad you can get from the Premier League that creates that little bit of spark, that creates those moments to create goals. And in January, like you say, Greg, we were crying out for it and we haven't brought it in. But I might be wrong in thinking, and this might be the first year we've done it. I don't know if we did it last year either, to be fair. But this year especially, we definitely didn't bring that loan in that creates and scores goals, which normally Town do pretty well. And we've done really well with that over the last 4 or 5 years. But this year, for some reason, we just didn't really try and chase that.
We had Tino, didn't we, at the start of last season before he got injured or came. Did he have what they call in the United States mono? The glandular fever, I believe he got. And he ended up at Portsmouth,
Right.
didn't he?
Yeah.
No, you're right. I know we were in for Scott Swine, and he might have been that player. He was at Hull and obviously then Bristol City off Burnley. But yeah, we haven't signed him. And if you don't score enough goals and you leak them as much as we do, the inevitable happens.
We were after Platino as well, weren't we? I think he were another that was been mooted. Just going back as well to something that Greg said earlier on about the structure. I think Town at the minute have got a chief scout job application out there, which for one says something, doesn't it? You know, that's not in place. But then kind of just delving a little bit deeper, you know, the head of recruitment is a bloke called Lee Mabry. Funnily enough, 2013 to 2020, head of recruitment or something like that at Stoke City. So, you know, it's all kind of, it all fits, doesn't it? You know, it's all the same crowd, and you just wonder whether there's a bit of an echo chamber at the club. You know, there's not any ideas outside of the norm, and
it's not even that, Tristan, though. Tristan, like, if you're gonna, if there's any club not to copy over the last 10 years in the Championship, it's Stoke City. The amount of money they've spent on average players, such as Dwight Gale, like they've spent so much money, and they're owned by Bet365 owners, aren't they? So they are so wealthy, and they can spend the money, but they just fail and fail and fail and fail. I just don't understand why you'd set your stall out to have them kind of in charge. You'd think they're the antithesis of what we want to be. But like you say, Tristan, they just see. I didn't even know that about Mabry, but it just seems to me that we're bringing these guys in as if they're the answer, as if they've achieved everything, as if they're David Wagner and his assistants that got a team like Huddersfield to the Premier League. It's like that, but it's not. It's Stoke City. And what did they ever achieve while they were there? What did they actually achieve? When you consider the money that they spent, it seems to me ridiculous. It seems ridiculous, but then that just might be me again. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I just find it very, very strange that Stoke are the team that we're trying to kind of drown ourselves in when they're underperformers. When you look at the amount of money they spend on the squad every year,
jobs for the boys. That's all it is, unfortunately. It's jobs for the boys, and I can't see it changing unless the person at the very top and you know, Jake Edwards are willing to make a decision. But you know, how much is that going to cost? Are they willing to make that decision? You know, from the outside looking in, I don't think they will, and I think we will struggle until something gives. And if that's another relegation battle, it won't surprise me. But you know, you look at the and this isn't just a them problem. They've only been in a season. This is previous as well. You know, you look at the amount of, you know, I've got by and large it is transfer market, so take it with a pinch of salt. But except for third and fourth choice goalkeepers, Nakayama, Jordan Rhodes, and Connor Mahoney and Aaron Rowe, who were both on loan, and Brahima Diarra, everyone else is in contracts. That's 30 odd players if you include B team as well. That's dismal. How are you going to move some of those players on who are, you know, Sorba Thomas, Mikael Hellick will probably go, understood, but there's some very, very average players that you won't want to be taking down to League One in that cohort. To note, Johnny Hogg's also out of contract, but I just assume that he'll stay forever.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? We could end up as a team full of players that don't want to be here, can't be arsed or aren't good enough, and we've seen what happens to clubs like that. They just continue sinking, don't they? You just can't get rid of these high earners, and they're not interested, not giving 100%, no new ideas. It's just a vicious spiral. I mean, to be honest, lads, I think we will spend some money. I think we will spend some money, but do you trust Cartwright to get it right? You know, fans are calling for him to go. Should he stay? Should he go? It's not been that long, has it, to judge? But to me, he's only made, apart from Reece Seeley, who's been injured most of the time, he's not made one good signing since he's been here. So that doesn't exactly fill me with confidence to say that even if we are going to spend money, we're going to spend it in the right areas.
Well, I used to slag Lee Bromby off, didn't I? So perhaps I was going to say come back all is forgiven, but actually just because he was shite doesn't mean that Cartwright eat toilet as well, does it? You know, that don't mean he can't get 2 decisions wrong in a row. You know, I think the other thing with Cartwright, this whole Kevin Russell thing, suddenly he appeared on the coaching staff. Then when Brighton Wright was coming, suddenly he's now sat on the bench. And when we beat Millwall, he's down on the pitch high-fiving everybody and rowing with that midget Honeyman as he goes off the pitch. I bet he went down giving people high fives at full time on fucking Saturday or walking around the pitch applauding anybody. He'll have been away down the stairs and off, won't he? No doubt. Yeah, I just it does reek of what you say, Greg, that there isn't much of a plan. I think I haven't met Cartwright. I know you have, Killer, and your view was he seemed like an all right bloke. But the guy's been in America for 10 years. English football has moved on massively in 8 or 10 years or whatever he's been away. And I'm with you. Why would anybody want to emulate Stoke? You know, if ever there's an area of your business out where you want people that have got drive, ambition, you know, and maybe a little bit of youth on the side, then that role is something that's going to be key because they're going to be across the innovation. They're going to be, you know, what's Cartwright across apart from a massive cake looking at him. That was very personal. I probably shouldn't say that. Was really, really mature and personal, wasn't it? Sorry if you're listening, Mark. I'm sure you're not. But if you are, anyway, I'm really sorry. That was pathetic.
So but, Lee Bromby don't get an apology, guys. Lee Bromby don't get the apology. I thought you were teetering on it. You nearly said sorry.
Any man that has a private plate that says Broms on your Porsche gets all the stick he deserves.
Come back, Lee. That's what Gaz is saying. Come back to us, for God's sake. I mean, who would you get? That's the other thing. It's like saying go, but who's going to come in? Who's going to come in and do a job?
Stuart Webber's available, isn't he? He might just mind the racist comments. No, let's be brutally honest. Ironically, I think Stuart Webber's the last time we actually had a director of football operations who ran a decently tight ship. Because when we and I look at the structure of the football club, I think the day that penalty went in at Wembley, we've never really had anyone stay a period of time. We brought in. I can't remember. He's called David, one of them, but he's from Celtic. Web. He was the one. I don't think it was another one before that. He was responsible for Zanka, De Platra, and then David Moss, and he left. And then you had all the dross that we signed in the second season of the Premier League for a lot of money. David Moss came in, and he's left and ended up at York City doing everything. Very weird situation there. And then you're reliant on, I think, Lee Bromby's little black book, which was just signing ex-town players. You know, which is why Will Boyle ended up being, you know, just last season. That was watching him try and play in the Championship. And guess what? We're playing him next season, and he's at Wrexham. I'm sure he'll be all the more famous for Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds. But the quality of transfers has not been good enough in the last season, and you need that structure in place. And I think the most disappointing thing, if you look at Town, a big period of time, is that we didn't use the Premier League to do that. And yes, Dean got ill, and that played a part in that. But he sold out to somebody. I don't think in the benefit of the football club in Phil Hodgkinson, and that structure wasn't there. And the only good thing that came out of that was Carlos Corberan. We hadn't backed him. He left. We go through Scoffer, Botheringham, Warnock, Moore, now Brighton Wright as permanent managers. The last couple of years has just been an absolute shit show. So I think he just needs a full reset. but has the club got the right people in it at the football side? Behind the scenes, I think the club's got the right people, but as in the day-to-day running, but the football side of stuff, I don't think they do. And until you get that sorted, same mistakes be made, and unless you get very lucky, you're not going to go anywhere. And I just the list of signings and players that we have, the fact that we gave Tyree Simpson a 4-year deal, Kyle Ludlin a 4-year deal, we extended the contract of Jackson, Headley, and Pearson in January. I think assuming that we were staying up, all of those decisions just they just smell of incompetence at the very top.
Thing is, though, we have got somebody at the club, I think, who has half a clue. Because obviously, after Darren Moore was replaced, was let go, Johnny Worthington came in, didn't he, for a few games? And it was a change straight away overnight, I thought, in the club all of a sudden felt like it were ours again. I know it sounds overdramatic talking like that, like it's a military coup, like it's the end of communism, and we're back. It feels like that, but he was there for a few moments. His press conference was unbelievable. It were all like, yeah, he's one of us. He knows exactly what the club's about. The right man at the right time. We've got the right results on the back of it. And now we sit here a few months later, relegated, and it brings the question up, was it the right thing not to give Worthington? And I know he spoke about he didn't want it, but come on. If Town had gone to him saying, oh, Johnny, no, it's yours, mate, you can have it, it's a different thing. I don't know if he'd be as against taking the job on full-time, although maybe at that point he actually knew the makeup of the squad and the divisions within it. Maybe that was half the reason why he didn't want it. But with the results he got and the football he played with a high press, just give it a bloody go kind of football that fans really got behind, was it the right thing now, looking back, to not try and get him? Maybe we did try and get him, to not give him the job if he were going to take it. Is it the right thing did we do the wrong thing not trying to do what we can to give him the job?
Not really. I'm with you. My guess is once he got in and amongst it and he realised what he would have been taking on, I'm not sure he wants it. And I think he genuinely does love the club and he's got a job he really likes. Really likes the job he's got. They're about to invest in the academy, aren't they? Go back to category 2 or whatever the categories are going back to. So that's a really big, responsible, reasonably well paid job he loves. What on earth would you want to throw that away for 6 months of getting battered in the Championship every week?
Thing is, as well, you get found out quickly in the Championship, don't they? People analyse you, and it's a very small sample size we're dealing with, isn't it? So who knows? It could have all gone to shit, and then we end up losing him, like Schofield. And I don't want to see the back of him. I think he's a great guy. I think he loves the club. He's given his all, and you want people like that staying at the club. You don't want to see that happen to someone. And to me, who knows how it would have worked out? I still think we were quite limited in the approach, even though we gave it a go. I think once teams had found out how to counter it, we would have then struggled. So again, I think it was for him. I think, and I don't think he really wanted it anyway. So I think it's probably the right thing to do, to be honest, at the time.
But then would you look at him again now? If Brighton Wrighter does walk at this point, would you look at Worthington again now going to League One? Because it's a very different situation to the situation he would have taken over at that point. When Schofield kind of got the job, it was literally, wasn't it, a press release, and right at the bottom it said, and Danny Schofield will be taking first team matters. It was like something as ridiculous as that, wasn't it? It wasn't paraded out as if, oh, he's our new coach, blah, blah, blah. It was, oh yeah, and Danny Schofield's taking over. This point, you're going into division below. Even if we don't improve the squad too much from where it is today, I still think it'll be competitive. People have commented on here saying we'd go straight down again. I don't think we would with what we've got. I think there is quite a solid foundation there. There's no creative midfielders, but there's enough for me to be all right in League One with what we've got. Would Johnny Worthington be something you'd consider at this point forward, having seen what he did in January and how he got the fans behind him? Is it something you consider at this point, though, guys?
Heart says yes. Head says no. I think, like we've just alluded to, if we really think that there's not that many decent people in the club at this minute in time, quite as you've just said, he is someone that is, that you would hope would be consistent within the club and is the kind of foundations that we need to be building on. If all of a sudden he has a bad first 10 games and he's shipped out of the club, that's another that we've lost that could have potential. So as much as I did like him, I think he'd get whatever team, if he did take it on, he'd get whatever team he had fit. That's for sure. And and I think as we said, he'd galvanise the team, but he'd galvanise the fan base. And I think that part is important. I think Nick said it up front. We seem to be bringing in managers that nobody really has any kind of affinity with, but Worthington in his first press conference did it, within the first kind of 10 minutes of speaking.
I think that the other thing for me as well, by the way, is trying to keep as many people as we can with those kind of links in the club, because at an exec level, that board, DTS stepped down. Was he removed? Did he step down? I don't really know what happened. Anne Huff, who's been an absolute stalwart of that club at an executive level, has also gone. And Kevin clearly wants to bring his own people in, which is fine. We've lost enough, but we've got a worldwide brand ambassador, so everything's fine, lads. I think that's my other worry, is where they could just be another casualty, and then it's another one that's operating at a senior level in the football organisation who's got absolutely zero affiliation or understand what it means to be an Huddersfield Town fan.
It can quickly become soulless, can't it? If you don't have people with those direct links to the club, to the team, fans can easily become detached. Whereas if you've got people that you've got those memories from, that you've seen playing, giving 100%, you see them involved, you want to stick with it, don't you? And so I do think you need those people around. For me, I don't think he wants it, Ian. I don't think he wants a job. So I think it's a moot point, because I don't think he would take it even if offered, because I think he's quite happy with the role that he's got. And to be honest, it's a lot of pressure again. We're going to be, although people are saying, I don't, but people will expect us to be up there challenging, and all bollocks will come out before long. Right, we're already start seeing it. Let's get to work. Then it'll be right. We're investing. Look at these amazing players. We're gonna march up. We're gonna be top 2. All this crap come out, and it just piles pressure on from the off. And if we don't do well in the first 10, 15 games, that'll be it. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that happen to him, because I don't think he deserves that, and to be put under that at this stage. I'm not saying never. I'm sure that's what he'll want to do eventually. But at this stage, I think he's got a really nice job going there. There's a lot of promise in it with the developments behind the scenes. I would be happy for him just to stay and get somebody else. But, I mean, he's bright and right as staying. Does he want to stay? I don't think he does. But what do you guys think? Do you think he'll be here? Because to me, listening to his press conference, he sounds like a bloke that doesn't want to be here. I don't know what your take on it is.
Got to be humble pie a bit here, though, because when he came, I was so excited, because his CV, and I'll stick by that, is the best we've had when a manager's come into the club. His CV's really impressive with what he's achieved at a similar level in Germany and then in Switzerland. He's done really well, right? He's a bona fide, successful European quality manager, right? And he can't get a song out of us. I expected more. The stuff in the press conferences after this game this weekend against Birmingham, where he's like, well, people are leaving early and stuff like that. I'd have expected him to stamp that out on day one, but he didn't. And I think you tweeted about this, guys, saying it's weak leadership. I can't remember what you said about it, but I expected more from him. I expected more. Like on paper, looking at his CV, you'd think he'd be the right guy to carry on next year. But listening to the way he's speaking, it feels like to me like he's given up a bit. He's saying maybe I'll speak about it in the future, but we've still got next week to focus on first. It just seems like it seems unprofessional, even from him, and I find that very surprising, because I wouldn't have expected that when he first came in and he spoke about the club and about his approach in his first couple of press conferences. I was very excited. I were all in on him. But you can only judge it on what you say every week, and regardless of the politics behind the scenes, Some of the squads he's put out are wrong. Some of the substitutions he's made in games I found questionable. We went to Rotherham away and we went down to 10 men, didn't even try. There's end of games where we're taking corners and passing the fucking ball back to the goalkeeper. There's situations within games that I find ridiculous. There's no up-tempo towards the end of a game. It's kind of just like, oh, let's just chuck Healy on because he can only do 30 minutes. What? He's scoring every time he plays and we're giving him 30 minutes. Best striker at the club, we're barely playing. He's in form. He's proven it and we still don't think he can manage it. I don't get it. If I don't understand how a footballer can be fit for 30 minutes but not 90 minutes. I just physically don't understand it. These situations that the team have found himself in under Andre Brighton-Writer, that I wouldn't have expected to find them in under a coach of his calibre. Does he stay or not next year? I think he's already gone. I think he knows in his head. He's made his decision, and I'm sure he will have. And to me, it's that he won't be here next year. And for whatever reason, but he seems to me, at this moment in time, to be blaming other people, blaming players. That's not something you normally get from a coach who's going to stay in a job. If he is here next year, to me, I'd find it quite surprising at this point.
His CV, it'll be a blip as well, because if you are already blaming other people, you can basically say the club was a basket case. You know, I went to a club, was promised X, Y, and Z, didn't get it. The players weren't right, etc., etc. I don't think he'll be here. I think we need to look more realistically at how we do things. You're talking about, just have a thought then when we're talking about getting with ex-pros in. John Stead was an assistant manager at Barnsley. He's just out of a job. Get him in Neil Collins in, I know Barnsley only won one in 8 with him in the running, but those are the type of people who I fully expect to be managing a club in League One. He'll be an English manager, young English coach, going back to the Lee Clark kind of years, young English coach who's got the opportunity. Scottish in Neil Collins' sense, so a young British coach anyway, who's got the potential to do something. I think that's where we'll end up. We need to know basically this time next week if he's staying or going, because again, not having a chief scout, not having the right recruitment in place, and not having a manager, it puts us behind. It puts us on the back foot.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think we, as I alluded to earlier on, we've got to make quick movements. I think we can't afford to make the same mistakes that we've made for the last 2 seasons, and I think they've got to make some kind of brave decisions at the top, and whether that is getting rid of Cartwright or not, who knows? But they've got to make some quick movements, and the manager has to buy into that, and they have to be part of the process of bringing the players in, and I think we've probably got to go back to looking at the type of players that the club brings in, because obviously at this minute in time we've just got a set of muppets, and to be completely honest with you, again, it's those kind of it's individuals that you can't buy into. As I said, I wasn't there yesterday, but I've seen the video of the team walking around the ground and Sorba trailing 50 yards behind them, with very little interest. And to be quite honest with you, you don't want that. You don't want individuals like that.
Well, thing is, we've had so many coaches now, you can't sit here and say it's the coaches that are the problem. You just can't. The players are the problem. The makeup of this squad is the problem with the club at the moment. It's poisoned, right? And it needs changing. Like you say, the problem is, Gaz, Greg mentioned this earlier on, we've brought players in on the cheap for years in a row. So the squad that we have now has very little turnover, very little monetary value, I think. They're a failed squad. You've got individuals in there. I think Thomas is all right. Radoni's all right. Brodie Spence, obviously, he's in there, and you could get a bit of money for him. But if we're looking to turn over this squad, which is, in my opinion, what needs to happen to get rid of it, the reset to me isn't the director of football. It is, you need him in there, but that's not the most important thing right now for today. It's that squad for impact when it comes to results. I mean, the squad needs turning over because it needs new blood, new bodies in there. It just does. It's been the same for too long, and now it's rotted. People have fallen out, whatever. I liken this to Liverpool. Like when Liverpool won the league a few years ago, they destroyed the league, didn't they, with Salah and Henderson and Milner and all this guy. They look fantastic. And now they didn't really change the starting lineup too much. And in football, what happens if you play the same team week in, week out, year on year on year? The return on investment, the returns that you get lessen year by year by year. And now we went this year with the same squad we had last year and we've done much worse and we got relegated. Like you said, the problem is everyone's kind of in contract for next year. We don't have the money that we had when we were in League One previously. Now, when Dean Hall took us in League One, he max financial fair play loss, didn't he? Was it 5 to 8 million, I think, a year? It changed a little bit, but that's basically what we ran at. Now, Kevin Nagel talks about sustainability, running it break even. If that's the case, when we go down into League One next year, we won't be spending the equivalent of what we did before when we were massive big hitters in League One and no one really could compete with us. And we failed against Peterborough in that first year. We should have gone up then. We didn't. We did it second or third time round. I suppose after Stan Turner that first time. But it took us a while to get out of it. And now we're not going to go back down with that clout. Right? We don't have that financial benefit that we had then. Right? So we're going to have to try and get a kind of the players that we have to improve because unless other teams come in to take them off our hands, who's wanting? And when you look at our squad, like we've said there, I don't think there's many players that will be attractive to other football teams. I don't think we've got much because either they're too old. I really like Tom Lees, but he's an older bloke. There's not going to be many teams in for him. You've got Lee Nichols, great goalkeeper, right? Although that's questionable, I reckon, this season. But again, he's pretty old, so you're not going to get much money for him, even if you do try and get rid of him. If anybody wants to take him, and Danny Ward, even Reece Healy, if you did want to get rid of it, is he 29 now or 30? You've got players that are all at the wrong end of the careers when it comes to bringing a return on investment, so you can go out and get some new players. We don't have that, so we're going to have something pretty similar. So for me, would I want Brighton Wright to stay on? Someone's asked that question. With the squad that we have, he can't get a song out of it. He's not been in League One before. It's a very different league, isn't it, than Championship? I don't think the quality is much less, but the style of football and the stadiums where you're playing is quite different. It's a bit more of a vociferous atmosphere. You need kind of somebody a bit more proven, I think, when it comes to League One to get out of it. I don't care really if he stays or goes at this point, but then if you're looking at your 9th manager in just over 2 years, that's a joke as well. We need a huge turnover of the playing squad day one, and that should be starting now. We should be looking at that and trying to bring in as many new, fresh kind of approaches as we can for August, because it's going to be a tough battle to get out of this. And like you say, Greg, the problem is that it's going to be a tough start. This squad isn't kind of built to succeed. I don't think our team can dictate play. I think that's our biggest problem when it comes to playing football on a weekend. We can't dictate play. So this season, when we've played against teams that are happy to take a point, a bit like Birmingham this weekend, they kind of didn't really offer too much. We can't really break teams down and score 2-3 goals. We just can't do it. We need to start doing that. But the problem is those players cost money. We don't really have the money. We haven't been willing to spend it. We're going to have a big retraction when it comes to transfer spending this summer, because obviously the TV money's a lot less when you're going down into League One. It's an absolute clusterfuck. It's a clusterfuck that we find ourselves in. And Brighton Wright is partially at fault for it because of what's gone on in the last few months. But again, if anyone's really trying to blame the coaches at this point, it seems a bit silly. The players are the problem. The players are clearly the problem. And I don't actually know the solution to it short term. I think it's going to be a very, very challenging few months for Town to try and navigate the way out into a positive season next year.
I'm not sure that. I think the club don't really have a choice whether Brighton Wright is staying or going. I think it'll be his choice. I think I'm with you, Greg. I think I said this the other week. They absolutely were sold in the dream to get a man with his CV to come to a team like ours. I think people are saying, well, if players have been behaving like that, you should have done something about it. But this guy was trying to find a way in a situation he's never seen before in all his years in football to make a team out of a bunch of individuals, and it backfired massively on him. I mean, if I have a criticism, my criticism is he waited too long. If he was going to behave like that, he should have behaved like that 4 or 6 weeks ago, not with 2 games to go. And I think you're right about the playing squad, Ian. And what worries me is that we will lose some bodies, and I think Hellick and Thomas are the 2 obvious ones, aren't they? But there'll be no 5, 10, 15 million pound transfers. It'll be 1 and 2 mil. So in terms of the cash any outbound sales will generate for League One investment, relatively speaking, it's going to be now. What do we get for Toffolo and O'Brien? 15 million or something. It won't be any of that. If you were a top, if you're Blackburn and you're looking at a Hellick, or if I'm trying to think of a medium-term Championship team that's got a bit of brass, you'd want Hellick, wouldn't you? You might you might be right with Nichols, but he would be a reserve keeper at most Championship clubs now. So we're going to generate at the most a couple of million quid's worth of sales, which really leaves us short of investment from an FFP point of view. And I said before, I hope they've got big wage drops written into the contracts, because if not, that'll be our next problem. Our next problem will be that we're bumping up on our wage budget before we've even started. But I think the bloke's already made his mind up, but he's desperately trying to avoid telling us he's made his mind up. I mean, Oggy pressed him, and he more or less said to Oggy, I appreciate you asking the question, but can you ask me next week? Is more or less what he said, isn't it? So I already think he's a goner, and I'm with you, Greg. I think we need, in the short term, we need an English coach who understands what League One's going to be about, a British coach maybe, because I don't think now is not the time to gamble on another Carlos or a Martin from Wakefield, is it? We need somebody who's going to give us half a chance, because seriously, I know people I've seen loads of tweets, people saying, well, it's going to be great, we're going to win some games, we're going to be the top end of the table. Don't bet on it.
That's the spirit. I think, but the thing is, right? Because he'll know if he's going to stay or going. So if he's made his mind up and wants to go, why not just say it and get it over with? Get rid of him now, and that's an extra week then to start playing. Because this Ipswich game means fuck all. Let's be honest. So why not do it now? Get him out. Get Worthy to take this Ipswich game. Get in the background looking for a new manager, and let's get going. Because before we know it, we'll get this Ipswich game done. Brighton Wright says I want to go. Then we'll prat about for 2 weeks trying to find a new manager. Then we're going to start looking for players to suit that man. By which time season's nearly started again, and we're on the back foot again. If you're going to go, do it now, because it's no good to him or us for him to stay for that game. If that's the case, it makes no sense to me. Why would he stay and take it? It doesn't do anybody any good, does it? I think he sounds like a guy that's pissed off. He sounds like a guy that was sold. You can tell what sort of rubbish that Cartos will come out with trying to get him here. We've got this team, this infrastructure. We're going to back you big. We're going to stay up, and then we're going to charge up to Premier League and all. And he's coming, taking one look at that squad and said, "I can't do all with this shower of crap. Like what's this?" And it's just, you're right. It's a team of individuals. It's not a team. It's just a group of individuals. There's some good eggs in there, like Ollie Turton. I really like as a character. I think he'll be a really good player for us. Hopefully he'll stay. And we all know Johnny Ogg's a good character. There's good characters there, but there's also loads of idiots, and I just can't see us getting rid of them. I can't. Who's going to want them? Who's going to want half of these players? They've showed nothing to show that they're any value to anybody. Sorba Thomas, yeah. Ellick. Bolker, I've no idea who'd want him. No one's ever seen him. We've got Danny Ward. No one's going to take him on. He's too old. Jordan Rhodes, he did all right for Blackpool, but then he was injured at the time. Udlin and Simpson up front sounds amazing, doesn't it? I don't know. I mean, what? Ely, would he stay? I mean, he looks a decent striker, but I mean, you say he's 20. Is he 29, 30? But I mean, he could still do a job in Championship for somebody, couldn't he? I don't know. I mean, it's a hell of a job. It's a hell of a job, but we can't prat about. We've got to get on with it. We've got to get on with it. There's clubs, like you say, your Wrexhams, they're going to spend big money. Rotherham, how many times have they gone up and down just yo-yoing? They know what it takes. They know what it takes to get out of its league. You've got like your Peterboroughs always up there. People are gonna be spending money getting people with experience. And when was the last time we signed a player that we thought, my God, that's a good player for this league? They've proved it over the last few years. We don't, do we? We don't do it. And that's what we need. We need top-end League One, lower-end Championship players if we're going to have a chance of getting out of this league. So it's how do we think we're going to shape up? Like, do you think Nickel? Who do you think's going to go? Who do you think's going to be out the door then? So we're saying Sorba Thomas, Spencer, maybe not. Who knows? Nichols, Bolker. I think he'll be gone. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. Struggling.
Rodoni.
Yeah, but he can't hit a barn door. So maybe as a squad player, I like his energy. He runs around a lot, but so would a whippet if you threw that on pitch. But you've got to actually do something. Do you know what I mean? It's all
He's
right
in a
running
poor
about
team
and
though,
getting in
isn't he?
people's faces. He is in a poor team, but again, he had another chance again. Put it wide. He can't. He just doesn't hit the target. He's so frustrating because at times I think, look, I really like his character and his aggression, and he does pop up everywhere on the pitch, and he's always involved, and he never shirks away from it. But where's the quality when you need it? I mean, he was brought in as an attacking midfielder, and he scored what? 3? How many goals has he scored? 3, 4. How many goals has he set up? Another 3.
Somebody will
Like,
have him though.
good enough.
This is a thing, and I always keep saying speculate to accumulate. You look at the players that we've brought in the last few years. I think Josh Koroma came from Leyton Orient when they were in the conference. So Thomas came from non-league. AFC Wimbledon, Redoni, that was League Two. So we haven't. What we've done is we've signed young English players to develop and then sell on. But you're right to an extent. But Redoni will have it. Scouts are watching him, from what I understand, every week. Somebody will have him. It's all about investment. It's all about doing the right things. And like I said, it's now up to the market. Helic, Sorba, Redoni, they will definitely go. I can't see him being here. Spence, I think he was at fault for the goal on Saturday again, and it's because he's not a left back. He didn't check over his shoulder. He's done that a couple of times whilst playing at left back. I think at right back he looks a lot more comfortable, but then you've got 3 left backs. Ruffles is out injured, and you've got 2 left backs on the bench, both of whom are don't think Championship standard. So again, it's all about how you build a squad. Ultimately, it's now up to the market. People will come in. Those players, if they want to leave, will leave. It's about getting everything right. It's about we need to know if the coach is going to leave. We need to be actively going out right now, looking at players who are out of contract, what loans are available, and who's actually quite good at League One, League Two level. Somebody like Macaulay Longstaff, we're not going to get him. We can't afford him. Wrexham will probably buy him. But somebody who's scoring goals in the lower leagues, we haven't been proactive enough in signing big players for a long time. In the Championship, we got very lucky in the season we went up that David Wagner and Stuart Webber had contacts and brought players in. Was it Naki Wells? Was probably the last player we bought in for big money in the Championship. I'm not counting the Premier League, but in the Championship. So there's a load of stuff in the background that needs to happen with the club. So
I'm with you, Greg. I think Spencer's great. I'm with you, Greg. I think Spencer's defensively not great. I don't think he's great. Yeah. I think he's given quite a lot of goals away recently. He's getting found out again. Teams, apart from us, it seems, have so many different data analysts and performance analysts, and look at individual players' weaknesses. And I think Spencer's been found out a little bit. Maybe, like you say, Greg, it's because he's playing left back instead of right back, and that's his problem. With Helic, but I do think there'll be takers for him. I think was Spurs in scouting him not long back, I think, or they were looking at Redoni and then looked at Spencer having been impressed by him in a game. So there'll be scouts looking, of course. There's scouts at every game. There's always people there and thereabouts. And if they're not at the game, they can watch it just as a lot of us watch it on TV anyway. But there's got to be takers for Spencer because he's young. I think, to be honest, for his own personal development, a year in League One in a better team would do him really, really well. Because whilst he's defensively not great, my other problem with actually is this is a bit of a character assassination, not character, performance assassination here, but he doesn't have elite speed. He doesn't create. He doesn't score goals yet. He's 19. Maybe it'll come in time. But as of now, he's not like Ryan Sessegnon when he came through, if you remember. He was unbelievable. He was fantastic. And he didn't quite make it when he went to Spurs. That didn't really go his way. Spencer's not at that level just yet. He's quite a fair way off that. To me, he's not even as exciting as Jack Hunt when he came through. He had that burst of speed. He had that little bit extra where I just thought, oh, shit, he's got something about him. And he never went quite as far as maybe he could have. There's a player in Spencer, and I think there'll definitely be somebody there to take him. But not at the money, like you say, guys. It'll make much of a difference when it comes to reinvesting it into the playing squad. So I actually think he'll be here. With Helic, he got relegated with Barnsley, did he not? And then he's been relegated with us. So you got to consider that. You're a centre defender. Yeah, he scored 9 goals. Defensively, I don't think he's great either. I think he really struggles looking over his shoulder and running back. He's a big lad. Great attacking set pieces. Yeah, really, really good. But 2 relegations in a row. You got to. There's questions there when you're looking at that. I love Redoni. But I don't think he's that creative midfielder we all kind of expected when he came in. He's busy, he's box to box, he's everywhere. All our play goes through him, and he's only 22. And it's important to remember that. I think of everyone we've got, whilst people were tweeting last week that he's a Premier League player, I think that was a bit of a joke. I don't think he's quite at that level. And maybe he won't get there, but he's got something about him. He has got something about him, and he gets about the pitch better than anybody else. And even when we're playing most teams this year, he still stands out on the pitch for me. No, he's not. He's rarely outplayed by a midfielder on the other side, even if he doesn't create those chances. And obviously, like you said, Sorba Thomas is the other one. But the problem is with Sorba Thomas is he went to Blackburn on loan and failed. He failed. They didn't play him. They didn't want him. Did they have an option to buy him? Did that ever? I don't know if that was spoken about. But anyway, it didn't work out, did it? The loan move for him. So again, you're looking at him. Brighton Wright has spoken about character issues and players leaving early, and that they wouldn't play this weekend. And Sorba Thomas was suddenly subbing. Now it doesn't take a mathematician to put that together and come up with the answer that maybe Sorba Thomas was one of those people, guys. And like you said, 50 yards behind everybody else doing the lap of honour. There's questions there on his character. And I don't think that's something ridiculous to put out there. I think most fans could even see the way he's on the field and expect that to be part of the case. So the guys that we have who could move on have all got issues to me as well. I don't think many of them will leave. I don't think they will. And if they do, it'll be for next to nothing. And it will really not create much of a difference when it comes to us going forward. I don't think any of them really, bar Radone, influenced the way we played that much either, though. So I don't actually think we're that much worse as a playing squad without 3 of the 4 of them. But I just hope it's not a deadline day thing in August again. Do you like how typically Town go out? You think you're keeping hold of them, last minute in August they go, and there's never any time to replace it. We'll just have to see how that goes.
If some of these lads leave, though, don't you think we're kind of lacking in the spine of the team? You know, if Helic goes, if maybe if Nichols goes, we obviously haven't really had a striker. Bergzog will go back. We're kind of lacking all the way through the spine of the team. You know, there's nobody that you can say that you'd be happy to step up. I mean, Maxwell's not a bad second keeper, and he might do a job in League One. You know, but other than that, we're struggling, aren't we? And I think that has to be the focus for them to bring in a decent spine to the middle of the team.
But you still got Pearson and Lees who will have played at Championship League One most of their careers. You've got Hogg, who's only ever played Championship. Sorry, Tristan.
No, I was just going to say they reckon Lee's knee injury might be him done.
I'd hope not, because he's probably been one of our best players this season, defensively. Helic, he's really good in the air. Interception's fantastic. Clearance is great, but balls over the top, we really struggle. Bolker might help it, but the issue is we don't have a lot of players that we can immediately get rid of. So you've got to build that spine. The interesting thing is what happens with Johnny Hogg. He's out of contract, I believe. I suspect he'll stay. I think you need somebody like him to kind of keep the club together. And you need to build your club around certain players. Now, Hoggy's 35, 36 now. He'll be 36 next season. So he's probably might even be his last hurrah at getting us back into the Championship. But you've got to build your team around certain players. We haven't built a team around somebody since probably Wagner, I don't think. I mean, we certainly haven't been building a team the last few years. So, I've seen a comment about attacking fullbacks. It's a very, very good comment. Unfortunately, we've got a fullback in Headley who can go forward but can't track back. And you've got somebody in Josh Ruffles who's steady as you go. Again, somebody who never really played above League One until he came to Town. Ollie Turton the same. Good on the ball, but going forward, again, it's an issue. So how we're going to play, ultimately, I think the decision is who's going to be managing the football club, and that where whatever happens comes from that. If Brighton Wright is here, he's got to build a team around how he plays. I don't think 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 which is his preferred formation will work in League One. So get somebody in, work out how they play, build an actual team around certain players for the next 2-3 years. But then again, I've played far too much Football Manager in my life, so what do I know?
I do think that I'm not sure there's going to be as big a rotation of this playing staff as people think there might be. We've got a lot of people on contracts. Next summer, there's a lot of people up next summer. And that might be the point when you see a lot. And there's a lot of those who are next summer. You've got Tom Lees and Matty Pearson and Maxwell and Ward and all these guys that are in the 30s. So I think next summer you'll see a big rotation. But I honestly don't think we're going to see a big rotation. And in some ways, you know, I'm with you, Greg. I think Pearson and Lees as a centre-half pairing in League One will be absolutely fine. But they're going to need somebody in front of them they can just give the ball to. Because if Brian Wright does stay, we ain't got the players to play 3-4-3. That's been proven over and again. We haven't got centre halves who can play in a 3, and we haven't got any attacking. I'm a massive. I have to say I'm a big Brodie Spencer fan. I think the lad's got the potential to go all the way. He needs to develop his game playing forward. I'm also not convinced he's a right back. I think he could be a centre half. But either way, you've got some club. But when was the last time we had a fullback who went bombing on round the outside of a winger and put cross after cross after crossing in the game like Lerver used to? Well, there isn't anybody since Lerver, is there? So I think, the Brighton Wright thing, if he stays, as I keep saying, I'm not sure he will. We need to get somebody in because we need to sign some players around the system and around the team. The problem is, Greg, your point, last time we built a team around anybody was around Darren Moore in that first Premier League season. That's why they signed Mounier like they did, and the wingers in the second. Not that worked out, but we need to try and do something that resembles a plan, other than that. Well, I've looked at their stats; they look really good on paper. Let's sign them. Where does Bolker fit in our current team? Where does Bolker fit in a League One team? He doesn't for me. So it's going to be a tough summer, because if they can't get some of these wages off, they're going to have to try and find a way to use what we've got to be effective in League One. And effective isn't something we've been in a long time as a team playing football.
Do you think a lot of them might go out on loan? Like you say, Bolker realistically, is he going to play in League One? Radulovic, is he going to play in League One?
He might be right with European lads, Tristan. I think they might want to go to Belgium or Holland or whatever. They might be able to get a game, but who's going to come in for Danny Ward unless Warnock gets a gig somewhere? Who's going to come in for Matt Pearson? Nobody, I wouldn't have thought. So we're going to be stuck with a vast core of this squad next year, and honestly, I just cannot see a scenario where we go out and sign 6-7 players, which is probably in the real world is what you'd like to do. We've got Kyle Hudlin and Simpson on contracts till 2026. What are we going to do with them two? That's 2 examples. We've got Conor Mahoney's still got another year after this. Scott I's got another year after this. What are we doing with all of these fringe players? So, yeah, it's a worry for me, because, as I say, I can see it being the same bodies, bar 1 or 2 come the 9th of August or whenever the first game is.
Unless you get a team, a little bit like Wrexham took Boyle. Some of the lads that want to get the game time, depends. I guess it goes back to that whole attitude and a mentality of some of these individuals. Are they happy to just sit on, decent contracts, or do they actually want to play?
Yeah, well, it comes to money most times these days, Tristan, doesn't it? Yeah. If they're going to have to take a pay cut to go and play football, chances are they'll probably stop where they are.
Yeah, and the problem is when you've got a team that's used to losing week in, week out, that mentality is quite hard. Sometimes you need new players to shift that mentality just to freshen things up. I mean, we saw it when we came down from Premier League. Oh, yeah, we're going to be fine. We've still got the players. We're going to do well. And it don't work like that, does it? It don't work like that. And when you've been used to struggling game in, game out, it's very hard then to shift to that positive mindset of, right, we're going to win this game and then this game, and we're going to. It's quite difficult to shift that mentality, and I do worry if we keep pretty much the whole of this squad, is that going to carry on into next season? because the quality, as you said, Kaz, it's a good quality league still. There's still good quality teams in there. It's not just oof it long and up. There's some reasonable football in League One. Very physical as well, demanding, tough. You need characters. You need people to grind results out. And is Radulovic the sort of player that's really going to mix it with those sort of defenders? I mean, he didn't look like it to me than what we've seen so far. But see, we've had some Twitter comments, guys. Anyway, let's get on to these. We've had some questions and some comments. Dave Beaumont said, this is more of a comment about the away fans. He said, move the away fans to the bottom tier cinema end, which I actually agree with for next time, because to me, I don't know why we give away fans the best stand for acoustics in the old stadium. Like, I still don't understand that. I don't know whether it's a policing thing but to me, you put them in the worst stand, get them out of the way, get them somewhere rubbish, and to me, that behind the goal there's nobody in it. Like, it's get them in there. Get them in there, like at Forest, where you sat low and you have the home fans above you. There's no reason why that can't be done. I don't know why Huddersfield Town have to be different from anybody else. And I've had this complaint before that I think the away fans have it far too easy at Town compared to other grounds. But what do you guys?
I think it is to do with the policing. I think it's to do with getting them to the train station after the game as quick as possible. But then again, you go to other stadiums, and then it makes no sense. It just seems to be us. But it's not as bad as it used to be when we had to stay in the stadium for so many hours after the game. And I don't understand how it is, because you rarely see much trouble at the. Although, was there a bit of trouble this weekend with the Birmingham supporters getting off the coaches? I think there was some. There were quite a lot of policemen about, weren't there, guys?
Kilnabank as well, I think, or Riverside.
Yeah, well, I think they were playing. They wanted some overtime. Looking at the number, they were, and I mean hundreds of them. I've never seen as many. More
police than fans in there, I think. I don't get it, because if you want trouble, you'll find it. It don't matter if you're at other end at ground. If people organise trouble if they want, it makes no sense to me. And I think. I mean, Dave said, have some dirt cheap tickets in the south stand to try and get that full. Presumably at the top end of it, try and get that as full as possible. Oh no, sorry, he's put south stand. So get dirt cheap tickets in the south stand. So get that full south stand full and make it safe standing. Well, I don't know if there's any plans to do that, but he's right. Make that. I'm not saying it's going to be like the Wall, but that can be our proper home end, can't it? That's where. That end is built for maximum acoustic. The shape of it that is going to generate the most noise, and you want the fans behind the goal. And if we were doing well, that could be bouncing, but it needs to be full. And I absolutely agree with that. I don't see any logistical reason why we cannot make that a complete Town end and a proper full cowshed end.
Well, if the ins and outs is a thing, they could put them in the lower tier at the south end, the away fans. I mean, people who sit there currently are probably fuming, but actually that's an area that's self-contained. You can be in and out through the same gateways as you currently use, and then we could have the entire stand.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know I don't know if it's in the pipeline to do anything, but I think that's a consideration, because we need. We're talking about how to generate more noise. But yet we'll cram Cowshed, Loyal and all the singing section into one small corner rather than giving them the full M. HTFC Dream says, thoughts on the Netflix documentary? Well, I mean, more of a tragedy, or is it a comedy? I don't know.
Oh, it'd been amazing if they've recorded the entire season and it was released as an episodic thing. It'd be amazing. It's probably the best. It makes Sunderland Till I Die look shite, and that was unbelievable watching it. If anyone's not watched that, you need to go back and watch the first season of that. It's unbelievable. I still live in my head them signing Will Grigg after them saying all day, we're not going to blow our brains out, we're going to stay sensible. Let's stay sensible. £3 million later, last minute deal, get it straight through. If Town did record this season, I'd love to see it. But to be fair, at this point, I just need Kevin to come out with a bit of a video diary. We obviously
They've
put a
stopped,
tweet out
haven't they?
today saying we put a tweet out today, obviously a bit cheeky, saying at least we're not pretending we've not been relegated, and it just to say we win a game and there's a video diary out in a second. But my favourite part of that is when they're always like, oh yeah, well, win, lose or draw, we were going to put one out today, but we've won, so we'll do one. But we were always going to do one anyway. Never happens when we lose, does it? We've not lost one. And like, oh yeah, no, of course not. But I'd love to see what's gone on at Town this season, because it's been a joke from the outside looking in, knowing exactly what they've told us. But the amount of stuff that must have gone behind the scenes would be phenomenal. But like you say, the problem is now dropping down to League One, it's another irrelevant division. Wrexham are there with the full whop of Ryan Reynolds and whatnot. We're not going to be as attractive to that either. The thing is, if that's the kind of thing we need to inflate our revenues to be able to compete at this level, then we're in trouble, because that kind of opportunity is not the same anymore. Just another reason why I'm so happy and looking forward to a year in League One next year, because all our plans seem to have been scuppered on that front as well.
We're not sexy enough, are we, as a football club? We're not an attractive. If it were a looker, like it'd be, you've been in the club, you've had 8 pints or 8 shots, or you come out and you've found an outside taxi rank and you've put, yeah, all right, we'll have a go. That's the sort of level that we are as a football club. Like, nobody outside the football club that has any affinity with Huddersfield Town will be remotely interested in watching us on Netflix. I can tell you that for now, unless it's for comedy value. And like you said, maybe there's a bit of comedy value, you know, how to buy a club in 11 days and relegate it in 11 months. I could see it. Do you know what I mean? I could see that maybe a bit of appeal, but I think it's a non-starter in it. I mean, even the Up the Town stopped. Even they stopped. I don't, you know, we started off with all this. We're going to do regular diaries and we're going to have Up the Town, and no one's seen them since. So I don't know. I just wish Kev would come out and say something, because look, I know we're not down technically, but we are down, aren't we? And sometimes you need, you know, after that, you need something. You need some assurance that there's a plan in place and we are going to give 110% to get back to where we belong, or just something along those
Nick,
lines.
this is it, Nick.
I mean?
What we need now is, right, we've had all these plans. They've come out, promised us the world, right? Premier League in 3 years. We're going to bring in the academy. We're looking at global media manager. What plans now? What will change now we're in League One? Like, they must have had all these plans on what they were going to do in the Championship, and now we're not in the Championship, and there's a big financial hole, obviously, dropping down to League One. And how much does that change? The time for them to come out and speak about it's now, surely, to be clear about what the future holds for the club and what their plans for the club is. They are, guys, you're talking about the academy level 2 you were talking about earlier on. I think they're going to a level 3 straight away. I think that's the initial aim, and then looking at building back up to that category 2 later on. I think that's in regards to the amount of like what age groups you go to. And now I know people involved actually have been asked to run different clubs, different year groups in the academy. So I still think that is the plan going forward. But obviously, things must have changed. The remit of the club must have changed, because we're in division below, or we're going to be in a division below. And now is surely the time to come out and talk about it. And like you say, the Town documentaries were great. Obviously, I starred in one. I don't know if I've mentioned that 20,000 times before, but I was in, and they've never had another one since. They peaked at that point, and now we're not. There's not been one since. Probably not won a game since either, to be fair. But they were good. I loved them. I thought they were really, really good. And yeah, okay, they're a bit Eastern European propaganda piece. We know it. We understand what it is. But there was still a lot you could learn from it. And it was quite nice seeing Town branded in a way that was professional. It's just shy at the end of that season. We've been relegated to League One again. But I liked it. I thought it was good. It was a nice open kind of, not an open channel of communication. It's a Greg Mr. Communications. I'll be able to explain this far more. But there's still, even when something's so propagandized like that, there's still things you can take from within it that's useful and fair. You can look beyond the smoke and mirrors and see what exactly is going on. But they've just stopped as well, and kind of that openness has disappeared somewhat. And maybe, like you say, it's because of the shit people have been giving the club, and Kevin tweets one thing and 20,000 people jump on giving him shit for it. Because when you're losing games, you're going to get it. I understand that. But it is a shame. It is a shame. And regardless of what happens and what the direction is, I hope next year they come back, because I got personally a lot from seeing that. The more I know about Town, the more I enjoy it. Like, I want to know. I want to see what's going on. And they're obviously they don't cost the club very much to do, but just other than effort and somebody's time. But I miss him. I thought they were good. It's just a shame they only put it out when they win. They can say what they want, but that is real, isn't it? That is over the course this year. If you look at when they've been released, it coincides with a positive result or a positive feeling. I know it's been shite for so long. We've just not had one. I don't think we've had one since Brighton Writers start, have we? We've had the in-training focused kind of documentaries, but we haven't had one about what's going on behind the scenes. And I think it's past time.
We haven't had a live diary, have we, since Millwall? I think when Carmichael Dave looked dishevelled on that video. He'd obviously been up all night partying, Carmichael Dave. But the one thing I do hope is I hope they had a plan for this eventuality. That's just my nagging, horrible feeling that actually the club weren't really planning because they thought it was never going to come to pass, that we had enough to see us through. And of course, that's turned out absolutely not to be the case. So if they haven't got a plan, we really are in the shit, because it is fundamentally a different league from a financial and operational point of view than the Championship. Football is football, right? And I guess, look, I've been sat here trying to think of some positives, and I think the only positive I think of is with football and with sport, there's always another day, right? So, we will get another chance in August, and no doubt we'll be all excited about the 4 blokes we've signed on loan from Sacramento Republic or wherever they're going to come from before we kick off, won't we? We'll be full of hope and expectation, as we always are, but behind the scenes, they really, really need to get this right. Really need to get this right, because I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record out, but my worry is a team as broken as Huddersfield Town currently feels is some massive risk of going straight through, and we've seen it before with clubs, haven't we? We've seen it before with clubs. So I hope they've got a plan. I hope they get it enacted and enacted quickly, and most importantly, I hope they communicate. And with you, Ian, I want to see something, even if it's just an acknowledgement of the situation, and to say, we fucked up. We're going to get it right. We're going to sort it. Leave it with us, even if that's all we get.
It's how they bring the fans along, and this is where Mr. Communication comes in, Ian. But it's how you bring them along, and I don't think you bring them along with bam bam sticks and prize draws. It's true. Everyone had a laugh about on a Saturday. The amount of just in the bin at half time at the back of the South Stand. People leaving early because they just know the inevitable's coming. It's how you reconnect with the fan base. I think that's their biggest issue at the minute, and they've got people who've been involved with the club still at the club, and that's their biggest asset. So it's how they utilise those guys. I think the season ticket price is interesting. It is interesting when you have an owner and kind of saying cheap season tickets devalues the product. I don't really know if that's the case, because you can charge 450 quid next season and the playing squad's still the same. So they've got to do things properly. I think one thing is it May 8th the season ticket prices come out? I can see it be 300. I think most people still pay 300. I think that's a fair price for League One football. Halifax Town charge 350, so we're cheaper than Halifax. We can nick their fans. They've got to package it right. There's got to be some humility, some honesty, and like I said, utilise those people who've been at a club a long time. Please don't come out with a video diary, and please try and understand English football culture a little bit better, rather than winding Leeds fans up on Twitter. Because for the immature few, I'm sure they enjoyed it, but there's always a tweet, as Nottingham Forest have found out in the last week.
Yeah, it's like anything. When they're playing well, everything's great in it. It's we've got a prize draw now. Oh, we got bam bam sticks, and maybe not the bam bam sticks are shite anyway. But you know what I mean. If the team's playing well, everything's rosy and everything's a great idea. If the team's rubbish, then every idea is rubbish. And look, I applaud them trying to do new things. I've no problem with that. But get the team right first. Get the main product right before you do anything else, because it don't matter what else you do to a degree if the main product's rubbish. It's like with the season ticket prices. I think 300 quid's a fair price. I would have said 350 if we would have stayed up at Champions. That's a really fair price. You compare to what other clubs are charging. they're charging 400, 500 quid a ticket, but you've also got to have something worth paying for and worth going to watch. And
the thing is, though, people with season tickets, Nick, people think with season tickets that if the prices go up, they're going to get better players on the pitch. And now, whilst obviously it does increase revenue if you have the same amount of people that buy season tickets, but the thing that puts me off, right, is the way the club phrased that, Greg, like you saying, devalues the product. All right, that's one angle on it. But it was a financial decision for Dean Hoyle to offer cheaper season tickets because it was beneficial to town in the long run. It wasn't a charity. It was for 1 year, and the first centenary year, wasn't it? We'll do it cheap. But like since then, it's not that it's just like, oh, we'll do it because we want to please the fans. It wasn't just that. They just thought it was financially beneficial for the club to do it that way. And now all of a sudden the new owners are in. Excuse me, my alarm's going off in the background, which is a bird clock, as you'll hear in a second. I'm not outside. But it was done to increase revenues, right? By more people in the stadium, so you sold more pies, you sold more beers and whatnot. Now, if the club want to go a different direction at this point, that's absolutely fine. But please don't pretend it was an altruistic thing to offer cheaper season tickets. It wasn't. And now the problem is when you get relegated, and every time we've got relegated before, I do believe season ticket prices have either dropped or stayed the same. We've had because when we first went down from Division 1 to Division 2, having lost to Birmingham many, many moons ago, and then got into that League 1 season with Lou Macari. It was Division 2 at the time, wasn't it? We had quite a big uptake, I think, in tickets, and attendance has improved. The same thing went from Division 2 to Division 3 under Mick Wadsworth, and then obviously Peter Jackson coming back. Like, we did well then again. And all of a sudden, we got relegated from the Premier League. And again, we froze season tickets, I believe. Now what we're going to do? He's spoken quite a lot, Nagel, about putting season ticket prices up. And now HSA have come out today, haven't they? Saying they want the club to stick with the same prices. And whether they do or not, whether that's realistic or not, I don't know. To me, personally, an inflation-linked season ticket price increase expectation every year is something to go with. Maybe there's kind of a football inflation price you can go with. And I think fans will accept that. The problem is the football's been shit for so long. The matchday experience is really shite. Last game, the game before, got a coffee. There was no milk in both concourses. In the direct, it was the lower Riverside tier to the left-hand side, whatever you call that. There was no milk for coffees on any of the stations. There was nothing. They didn't put any out. Shit like that. If you're expecting to pay more, customers expect more. If you pay more, you expect more. And now the problem is most budgets, I think, playing style are about 8 to 12% when it comes to revenues into what they actually spend on the players based on season tickets. Season tickets bring in only 8 to 12% of revenues, right? So it isn't the do or die when it comes to the playing squad. But if you're charging an extra 50 quid, 100 quid a season, regardless of the reasons, regardless of what everyone else, it's all right saying Halifax charge this, Grangemore charge that. That's fine, right? But fans don't give a shit about that. They don't care. I pay this, and next year they want me to pay that. Is it more? Yes. Am I getting more for it? And what we've been through the last few years, this season, to me, to put season ticket prices up by a fair bit is kamikaze. It really is. I think if the club do it, I'm not entirely sure they will. I think there'll be a bit of a reckoning following the relegation. But if they do it, I cannot see any situation where it doesn't affect the club more than what they seem to expect at this point. The apathy of the fan base is real. You can see it. We got relegated against Birmingham, and people didn't. The anger wasn't kind of there that people expected. It was just like, oh yeah, fair enough. We've been shit all year. But when you're giving season ticket prices out, and it's a lot more, and like say you're going to places maybe like Crawley, depending on did they qualify for playoffs? I think they did. But some of the teams who could be playing next year compared to what we've been playing this year, it's a hard ask to ask for more money and to expect people to pay more at the same levels they're doing this year. It's a very, very fine line, and I wouldn't want to be the person that had to make that decision because it's very, very difficult to get that one right.
Yeah, and I see the logic in keeping it as low as possible. You get as many fans in, and you sell more merchandise, and you sell more food and drink in ground, and generate income that way. But they need to change the whole infrastructure of what they're selling in the ground, and all the refreshments, all the merchandise. They need to look at a way of increasing that shop to get more merchandise in. They can learn a lot from other sports like rugby, where you literally you walk in and there's interactive boards where you just select what you want and then the pint's pulled ready for you. So there's not 4-mile queues waiting at half time, so you can't get a pint. And there are ways to do it where you can sell a lot more product. that they need to look at. Whether they are doing or not, I don't know. Because although they said, things are going to change, to me on a match day, nothing's really changed visibly in that regard.
It's money, though, Nick. It's money. And it all comes to if they're going to invest. I think there are bigger issues for the club at the minute. I think let's see how the next week plays. But, same thing happened on Saturday. We went out 5 minutes before half time to get a beer, missed the Birmingham goal. It took us 10 minutes to get a beer and sit down, and I missed the Town goal as well because, Barnsley have got them special things at pour pints and we don't. So there's a whole load of stuff that's going to happen there. They ran out of steak pies, before the game. Admittedly, we're still in the pub at 10-3, but that's where the apathy comes in. So there's loads of stuff about the experience that needs to improve. But I think most people forgive him a little bit if the playing side was a little bit better. So I'd love to see the plan. This is where it comes back to connecting with the fan base. I work somewhere they've had to develop a plan for the future because of turmoil in the last 12 months. It's amazing how you put that plan out to stakeholders, and fans are stakeholders, by the way. If you explain into how you're going to do it and what you're going to build, stakeholders will buy into it. And so if they can do that with us, that'd be a really, really fantastic thing to engage fans in. And like I said, I can't see 250 quid staying forever, but if they do put it up slightly, at least engage with us how they're going to spend that money, what they're going to invest in the club, what they need to do. It's that engagement wise. I don't think you're going to get that from a Skype call or whatever Kevin does with his mate Dave. It's going to come with a bit more professionalism. Those kind of videos that Ian was on about. And I think if they can do that, if they can re-engage the fan base before next season, I think they've got an opportunity. But there's a lot of stuff off the field that they need to solve first.
Yeah, I'm just looking down some of these other comments. Terry and Nigel is always really positive, makes me laugh on Twitter, but it says about the get shut list. He said, how would you try and deal with the dross that's under contract? We've kind of already spoke about that, haven't we? And for him, he said Spencer, Nichols, Ellick, the rest are no good. And that's kind of, harping back to what we said, that in an ideal world, you'd take a wrecking ball to the squad, wouldn't you? But can you when you can't? You've got to have people that want them to get rid of them. Yeah, unfortunate. Terry's made the comment there about Kieran Phillips scoring a double on his debut, and maybe that speaks more to the level that he's playing at rather than the actual player itself, the goal thing. But maybe I'm doing him a bit of disservice there.
It's one step up from where Radulovic were playing by the look of it.
I mean, it was a well taken goal. I watched him, and it was a decent. Decently taken goal, but you do have to question, the difference in quality between the leagues, and that's another player that really has been injured more often than not. Never really lived. We only sign players who will get injured. We sign players with injury records and then scratch our heads as to why they're injured all the time. I've never seen a club like it for signing injured players. Adama Diakabe, great name, says thoughts on reverting to the old badge for next season. Well. Yeah, maybe. I mean, as long as we win some bloody games, I don't care what they wear. They can wear bikinis for me. I don't give a shit. As long as we win some games. I'm just fed up of us losing all the time. I'm not bothered.
You'll get your twitchy boxes then, won't you, Nick? You'll love that.
Twitchy boxes, yeah. Box twitching games, that's what we need, isn't it? Box twitching performances. I don't honestly we score a goal, I get an hard on now. The bar's so low. Do you know what I mean? So low. For what makes me happy, I don't know, it's almost I can't even remember what winning feels like. I still can't get my head around. We've only won nine games all season. We've had nearly as many managers in 2 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, guys. Yeah, yeah. Catherine says, whilst the Warnock revival last season was fantastic, did it just delay the inevitable? Well, it looks like it has, isn't it? I think that's the sad thing for me, because I think there was a real chance to have a bit of a reset there and really kick on. It was a chance to invest wisely, maybe have a refresh with a new manager and kick on, but it didn't. Yeah, it didn't work like that, did it? And like so many seasons that have gone before, there's missed opportunity after missed opportunity to get it right, and ultimately you play Russian roulette with your survival. Eventually you're going to lose, aren't you? So, and I think that's about it, guys. The white tyke says can't see Brighton right, but yet being there next year needs a full review and clear out. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think I like the bloke. I don't mind how he talks, but I don't think he wants to be there. And like we've said, if he doesn't want to be there, go now. Because what's the point in staying another week? To me, it's just wasted time. They should be sorting out who's going to come in and give everyone a kick up the arse. But anyway, I think we've waffled on enough, lads. I mean, there's been a lot there, hasn't there? There's over 2 hours of misery. But it is what it is. It's been an utter shit show, and my only, it looks like it's going to continue against Ipswich. We'll probably get dicked 5-0. The only shred of comfort is that it will prolong Leeds' potential relegation promotion. But I'm just happy that it's over. Pretty much.
We're not doing score predictions. Come on, Nick. We always do a score prediction.
Well, I've just given it you guys 5-0. Ipswich. We'll get absolutely steamrolled.
Oh, yeah, so that's your. I know this is the Nick Social, but I didn't realise only I thought you might like to ask the rest of us.
What are your score predictions, guys?
So professional, Nick. Look at you go. 16-0. Is that what we need? Here we go. It's just, honestly, what team we're going to put out? Is it going to be like that old game again? Is it going to be that bad? I don't know. It's just fair play. Do you know what? Anyone that travels from Huddersfield for this game deserves a free season ticket for next year. Never mind a reduce. Never mind a small increase. If you can be asked going to this game, which might go down as the most pointless game in Huddersfield Town's history, not modern history anyway. Fair play to you, because to go down there to see Ipswich promotion party when we're already relegated, it's not going to be a fun one, is it? I don't think I'll be rushing down to Ipswich for it, guys. So enjoy it yourself, mate. You and Connor might be the only ones there.
We're going to have a great time.
Guys, what we're going to say? We're going to say, is everyone in agreement that we're going to get absolutely battered and everyone just gets pissed and has a good day regardless?
I think we need to go for a draw.
Yeah, 1-1.
Yeah, I'm going to say we have to do another 45, haven't we, Greg? So why not?
Oh, hey, isn't it? 17 draws this season, 14 or 13 of which have been 1-1.
I'll be able to.
You're a betting man, it'll be 1-1, and it will help Leeds, and then everyone can be really happy then. Be right.
You know what? He'd finish Kevin Nagel's season when it giving it all that. Oh, we don't talk about them. We go beat Ipswich and put Leeds up. That would be the perfect ending to the circus of Huddersfield Town's 2023 to 24 season.
Perfect ending to the Netflix series.
Yeah.
Right, guys. I think that's everything. Listen, thank you so much, everybody. We've had a lot of listens tonight and we've had loads of comments and questions. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Well, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure this season. It's been a pleasure doing this and talking to you guys about it, even if the football hasn't been. I don't think we'll be on after Ipswich, will we? Because it's done and dusted, isn't it? Let's be honest. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be back for the next round of circus that's probably going to follow next year. But let's hope we have a plan and we get our act together and we get some decent signings and kick on up this league and get back to where we belong in the Championship. So take care, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you all soon. Cheerio.